Hamsters! In this week's Academy, we are looking at something that has been in talks for a while. A strategic Bitcoin reserve, a country's stockpile of the asset. Although the idea of a Bitcoin reserve isn't new, it's been getting a lot of attention recently, especially with another big player hopping on board. And that player? None other than President Trump. It's a bold move, and it's got a lot of people talking. This could be the next big step in cementing Bitcoin's place in the mainstream. The real question is, where is this wheel spinning, hamsters? Well, to figure that out, let's start with the basics. What exactly is strategic reserve? A strategic reserve is like a hidden stash of something super important that you can dig into when things go highware or supplies run low. And as a backup, it is ready to be released in times of crisis or when there is a major disruption in the usual supply chain. Think of it like a hamster's emergency snack pile, tucked away just in case you run out of food and your human is taking too long to fill the bowl. When times get tough, you've got that extra stash to keep you going. A stash can take on several different forms, food being just one example. It could also be a backup supply of bedding in case the cage gets messy and you need some extra comfort. Or a hamster might stash a few spare toys for when you're feeling bored and need something to chew on. This is the same in the case of a national reserve. One of the most famous examples is the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, or SPR. This reserve was created back in the 1973-74 Arab oil embargo, when oil supplies were in serious jeopardy. It was set up to ensure that America had a cushion of oil to rely on in case things got really rough. Looking north to Canada, we see the one country in the world with a strategic reserve of maple syrup, kind of like a hamster stashing away a lifetime supply of premium sunflower seeds, just in case there is a syrup shortage and the world needs to sweeten things up in a hurry. Meanwhile, China has strategic reserves of metals, grains, and even pork products. You never know when a few extra sunflower seeds might save the day. But this time, we're talking Bitcoin instead of seeds. Alright, hamsters, let's dive into the why behind the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So, what's the big idea? Well, the folks backing this proposal see Bitcoin as something similar to oil or gold, a national and economic security asset. Think of it as a way to keep something super valuable on hand just in case the economy hits a rough patch or we need to shore up some defenses. But hold up, in terms of actual economic security, Bitcoin doesn't quite play the same role in the US economy as, say, petroleum does. With how it's used, it's more like having a stash of high-end treats in your cage. Sure, it's nice to have, but it's not going to fuel your hamster wheel or power your water bottle if things really go sideways. It's valuable, but maybe not quite as essential in a pinch. You are not fueling tanks or powering factories with Bitcoin after all. But there is still value. Fidelity, a financial service corporation, highlights that strategic reserves would hedge against rising prices, a weakening money system, and growing government debt. Or in other words, a lifesaver when the economy gets a little chaotic. Looking at the example of the United States, it seems that at present, not every hamster is on board. The idea of a strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States has also drawn skepticism from experts. Unlike traditional resources, Bitcoin is not crucial to running the economy. While the government buying up Bitcoin could help crypto enthusiasts by driving up their value, the broader benefits to the economy are much harder to pin down. Critics also comment on how a Bitcoin strategic reserve in this context is being connected directly to the strengthening of the dollar, meaning there is an assumption Bitcoin would take on a more active role in the economy. Then there is the other side. Bitcoin has been appreciating since its inception and its value continues to grow. So, a stockpile of these assets that keeps gaining in value could in theory help reduce the country's deficit without costing taxpayers a dime.
Not bad, not bad.
Between the arguments for and against, the next question that remains is how would this work? A leading blueprint for what a Bitcoin reserve could look like comes from what is called the Bitcoin Act. Under this plan, the United States would gradually accumulate 1 million bitcoins over the next 20 years, or what would be about 5% of the total supply. The reserve could include bitcoin that the government has seized from criminal actors. Think of it like a hamster grabbing up all the treats that weren't supposed to be in the cage. Right now, that stash stands at around 200,000 bitcoins, worth about $21 billion at today's price. Trump hinted in a July 2024 speech about unveiling his Bitcoin reserve plan that this seized stockpile could be the starting point. But here's the tricky part. It's still unclear what the legal process would be to move those coins out of the Justice Department's cage and into the government's official reserve.
But that's simply not possible.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why?
Trump hasn't said whether the government would add to that stockpile by buying more Bitcoin on the open market. To do that, the government might need to issue debt, though some supporters of the Bitcoin reserve suggest that the US could sell off a portion of its gold reserves and use the proceeds to snatch up more Bitcoin instead. So, where are Bitcoin's strategic reserves currently in place? El Salvador has been leading the Bitcoin charge for a while. Back on December 19th, 2024, Stacey Herbert, the director of the country's national Bitcoin office, mentioned that more funds, specifically $1.07 million worth of Bitcoin, would be added to their reserves. And at present, the country holds 6,150 BTC, worth around $600 million, plus $150 million in unrealized gains. The stash makes up about 1.6% of the nation's $36 billion GDP. The commitment has become just one of the president's sweeping reforms. Just like how the hamster's new setup helps it gather more treats and move around more freely, these changes have helped reshape El Salvador, leading to some significant gains in its economy.
Nice, nice, nice.
Of course, this one was mentioned already, but to share some specifics, in December 2024, Donald Trump confirmed plans to establish a strategic reserve, stating, "We're gonna do something great with crypto because we don't want China or anybody else, but others are embracing it and we want to be ahead." Moving across the globe to Europe, Christian Lindner, Germany's former federal finance minister, has been pushing the European Central Bank and the Bundesbank to consider adding Bitcoin to their reserves. It's like a hamster urging its fellow rodents to hop on the wheel and keep up with the latest trends in the cage. Lindner pointed to Trump's progressive stance on crypto as a model, telling Germany it shouldn't fall behind in the Bitcoin convo. These talks are just the tip of the iceberg. With more countries eyeing Bitcoin reserves and new strategies unfolding, we might be witnessing the start of a major shift in global finance. However, right now, the only thing that is for sure is that the race to embrace Bitcoin is on, and we've got our sunflower seeds ready, watching closely as things unfold. Thanks for joining today's Academy. Be sure to subscribe and remember, hamsters are power. One for all and all for one. Bye!